I can't wait for people to be like, did you see the second episode of Mystery Society? No, what did they talk about? How to put Franzia into a Diet Coke bottle. Oh.
I'm still not sure.
Hey again, Mystery Seekers. Glad to have you back. My name is Jenn. I'm here with Taylor Dahl and Nate Doan. Last week you heard from Taylor about the mystery of Joshua Maddox. This week you'll be hearing from me about the story of Maura Murray. In an effort to remain respectful to the Murray family and everyone working to solve this case, I am going to request that we not go too off the rails with any of our theories and avoid any kind of specific accusations against specific people. Nate, I see that face. I'm verbalizing the request so at least I still look good. Now, before we get into the events of February 9th, I would like to mention a couple of relevant things that happened leading up to Maura's disappearance, because this is one of the most talked about disappearances on the internet in the last 15 years, and we only have so much time today. I am not going to go nearly as deep as I possibly could on this, because there's a lot that has happened. I'm making a deep joke.
Yeah.
Fuck. So on February 7th, Maura's father, Fred, visited her in Amherst, Mass. to help her purchase a new car because hers was kind of on its last legs. That night, he allowed her to borrow his car to go out, and he stayed at his motel. In the early hours of February 8th, Maura left a dorm party and was heading back to the motel when she ended up getting into a car accident, which resulted in severe damage to her father's car. All that being said, let's jump into the actual timeline of events that happened on February 9th, 2004. Maura Murray was 21 years old when she disappeared after a car accident, a different one, on Route 112 in Woodsville, New Hampshire. At around 12 a.m., Maura used her computer to search for directions to the Berkshires in Burlington, Vermont. She also ended up printing out some of the directions from MapQuest. It's 2004. It's 2004, FYI.
Was she in Blockbuster when she did that?
Oh my God, stop. Around 1 p.m., this was the first reported contact that Maura had with anybody in an email to her boyfriend telling him that she was going to call him later. Around the same time, she ended up calling a condominium in Bartlett, New Hampshire, but she didn't end up renting anything. At 1:13 p.m., Maura spoke to a fellow nursing student on the phone for unknown reasons. I also don't know if that was ever investigated. At 1:24 p.m., she emailed professors and her work supervisor telling everybody that she was going to be gone for a week due to a death in the family. This death was never corroborated by the rest of her family. So they said that no death occurred. At 2:18 p.m., she left a voicemail for her boyfriend, whose phone was off at the time, saying that she was going to talk to him later. So she was still kind of making plans for the future at this point. At 3:30 p.m., she left the UMass Amherst campus, the college that she was attending, in her black 1996 Saturn, which had been packed at the time with personal belongings like toiletries, textbooks, clothing, and medication. On a later search of her dorm room, police found that the belongings in her dorm had been packed up as well. They also found an email between herself and her boyfriend that indicated that there may have been some relationship problems between them. 3:40 p.m., $280 was withdrawn from Maura's bank account via ATM. Almost immediately after this, she visited a nearby liquor store and purchased about $40 worth of alcohol, including Bailey's, Kahlua, vodka, and a box of Franzia wine. So honestly, all of that liquor kind of sounds like she might have been going to hang out with people or like going to a party. This is not leaving Las Vegas.
Poisoning.
On the same day, they're not quite sure when, she also stopped at a Massachusetts registry of motor vehicles to pick up accident report forms. That was for the accident that she had just gotten into in her dad's car. At 3:50 p.m., this is when Maura finally left Amherst, Mass. Via I-91 North, which is still kind of speculated on. At 4:37 p.m., was the last recorded use of her cell phone, and this is when she checked her voicemail. Now, there's been no evidence indicating that she ever told anybody where she was going or that she ever even actually picked a destination. Around 7 p.m., a resident of Woodsville, New Hampshire reported hearing a very loud noise outside of her home and could see a car in a snowbank through her window on Route 112.
Is that a car? In a snowbank?
Honestly, no one's shocked
fucking
it's
tell.
New Hampshire. At 7:27 p.m., the first report of the car accident was made by that same resident. So there was a significant amount of time between when she actually saw the accident happen and when she ended up calling police. She saw it around 7 p.m. and she didn't call until 7:27. So
She had to make sure it was a snowbank.
What? Okay. She, according to 911 logs, she claimed to have seen a man smoking a cigarette inside of the car. She later redacted that statement and said that she just saw a red light inside of the car and it could have been from a cell phone or anything. Around the same time, a second neighbor, so we also have a lot of witnesses here, a second neighbor saw somebody walking around the vehicle and witnessed a third neighbor pull up to the car. This third neighbor was a school bus driver returning home from work, and he actually ended up speaking to Maura that night. He stated that she wasn't visibly injured, but she was shivering and appeared to be quite cold. So I don't know if her car was off in this time or if she didn't have heat in her car. Again, the car was kind of on its last legs. Things might not have been working properly. He offered to call for assistance, but she pleaded with him not to call police and then insisted that she had called AAA. But AAA also has absolutely no records of Maura ever calling for help. So it sounds like she was kind of maybe trying to avoid any attention. I don't know if that's because it's the second accident in 2 days or if there was something.
She might have been driving drunk.
We'll get into that. At 7:43 p.m., that man finally returned home from work and immediately placed a call to the sheriff's department reporting the accident. So this is the second report that they've received that night. At 7:46 p.m., so only a few minutes after that second call, according to the official police log, a Haverhill police officer arrived at the scene of the crash. Now, this has been contradicted by a fourth witness who was on her way home from work and stated that around 7:37 p.m., which is 10 minutes before the official police log, this woman is saying that at 7:37 p.m., she saw a police SUV parked face to face with Maura's car with nobody inside or around either vehicle. So cops say they got there at 7:46, and she's saying that, nope, on my way home at 7:37, I saw somebody already there. So police did end up conducting a search of the vehicle when they arrived, regardless of when they arrived. They didn't find anybody inside or around the vehicle. I think they might have done a search of the woods as well. But they did find some of her personal belongings still were in the car, like some of the liquor that she had purchased. There was a book in there of hers, but some of her personal belongings were gone, including her backpack, her phone, and her credit cards, which have never been used since the disappearance. Inside of the car, they found red stains, which they're assuming are from the damaged box of wine, as well as an empty beer bottle and an empty Diet Coke bottle, which they think had been filled with wine at some point. But since she's never been found...
You ever put boxed wine in a Diet Coke bottle?
Oh, they're about the same color.
It's not about the color. It's just easier to drink it than straight out of the box.
It is. Well, you're just drinking out of the box while you're driving?
That's what the Diet Coke bottle's for.
Exactly.
Yeah. The easiest way to get boxed wine into your system, other than straight from the box,
Is
any
straw.
bottle.
Via a different vessel.
Yeah.
A straw.
Yeah, like a juice box. Big straw for a big juice box.
For a big boy.
An adult
PVC
Capri
pipe.
Sun. You don't need, all you need to do is put the straw in the bag then.
That's
But
what
then
I'm
it's not in
saying.
the box.
What's in the box?
The bag is in the box.
Yeah, you don't take the bag out of the box, keep it in the box, put
You've
the straw
never
straight
slapped
through
the bag?
box.
So since she's never been found,
Siphon it like gas.
No, there's
Just like with the
a
hose.
spout, and you hit the
there is a
button,
spout.
and then you pour it in there.
Anyway, so because she's never been found, it's still kind of unclear on whether or not she was actually drinking that night. Some of the items in the car might prove otherwise. Between 8 and 8:30 p.m., a contractor on his way home from Franconia saw a young person that was described as wearing jeans and a dark hoodie moving pretty quickly on foot about 4 or 5 miles east of where Maura crashed her car. Now that went undisclosed, like they didn't mention that to police or anything, for 3 months. I think it was because he had been going through some of his paperwork and realized it was the same night and was like, oh, that's kind of sketchy. Maybe I should tell someone.
So could that have been Maura?
They think so.
If they're in a hoodie, like, you can't really tell.
Right, and it's pitch black. I
Yeah.
mean, this is northern New Hampshire. This is fairly close to not only the Vermont, but
we're very familiar with.
the Canadian border. So back in 2004.
Oh, yeah. I've been up there.
Yeah,
I go
spend
up
a lot of
there.
time.
Probably every
On
weekend.
back
to Winnipeg.
roads, it's like pitch black. Like they're in the middle of the woods. At 8:49 p.m., Maura's car was finally towed to a local garage, and at 9:30 p.m., they discovered a rag had been stuffed into the tailpipe of the Saturn. Now that kind of goes back to her car being in pretty bad condition. Apparently, sometimes it would smoke out of the tailpipe.
Do you know, isn't that how people commit suicide?
Yeah.
Yes, it is. That's why it was so suspicious at first. But then her dad was like, nope, I told her to do that. The last thing I want to mention before we get into our own theories is that as of December 12th, members of the Murray family have made public statements regarding recent searches in the past few months with the assistance of volunteers, cadaver dogs, and ground penetrating radar, which has confirmed an anomaly in the same area that these 2 cadaver dogs had a positive hit.
I don't think cadaver dogs can volunteer. I don't want to make that clear. They have to work.
They're working boys. They love their jobs. That anomaly may or may not be human remains just based off of the cadaver dogs alone. They haven't dug anything up. They haven't actually been able to search that particular area, which is currently an undisclosed private property somewhere along Route 112 to the Kangamangas Highway heading east towards Maine. That is a real highway,
It's not a
people.
fucking real highway.
Kangamangas Highway. It is a quite beautiful drive
Kangamangas.
during leaf season.
During what?
Leaf season.
What are you talking about? Where are you from?
Have you never seen leaves change?
No.
Kangamangas was the one who conquered Asia, right?
Oh yeah, that's right. My bad.
You guys are fucked up. So anyway, it's a private property where something sketchy is going on, but they don't know what it actually is.
Are we supposed to talk about our theories now?
It's theory time.
I have a theory.
Do you?
I actually have a fully fledged out theory. Here's
Oh
what I
wow,
think
okay.
happened.
Please.
I'm ready.
Here's what I think happened, and I am serious about this, but I understand it's a stretch.
Oh my god. Okay, go.
It's not that much of a stretch. I don't mean to get your hopes up. Girl crashes a car. She's been drinking and driving. Cop pulls up. Cop says, "Hey, I can get you out of this ticket if you just, And then some weird shit happened after that. Cop was like, I'm gonna lose my job because this woman's gonna be like, hey, I did some shit to get out of a ticket or jail, whatever a DUI is nowadays." And then
That's jail.
And then it just ended up, going and going and going, and he took all of her stuff, so maybe she wouldn't be identified, hoping that nobody saw her crash into a snowbank in the middle of nowhere.
Who's all of her stuff?
God damn it.
I don't even...
Okay, go ahead.
No, that was my whole theory. I think that she just got lit off Franzia boxed wine.
So-
just made some bad
I
decisions.
mean, it's pretty plausible because
Drunk
of
drove.
everything that happened.
Got pulled over, and the cop wanted to have sex with her, and then he killed her.
Maybe. I don't know if it's...
There have been other theories about police involvement.
I don't want to say sex, because I don't feel like it
That's
was like that.
aggressive.
I think with everything involving the background, I think she was looking for a reason to get out of bullshit nowhere, New Hampshire, get away from her family. I think a cop pulled her over and was like, "You're gonna go to jail." And then they had some kind of interaction where she ended up going with him because he offered her something.
Yep.
Like, why are you drunk driving? Maybe she gave him this whole story about her family, and he said, well, I can take you away from this, but he's actually just a bad man.
I mean, there's potential in that. A lot of people have thought about police involvement. Other people considering her room had been packed up.
I thought she didn't buy rum. I thought she bought vodka and Franzia.
Baileys.
Oh, and Baileys. And then the other cream. Kahlua.
I can't wait to go home and drink my bottle of fucking Baileys. A lot of people think she might have gone to Canada.
Well, I do think no matter what happened, she was planning on leaving. That's what it sounds like.
I mean, based off of...
Sounds like she just got away, you know?
Yeah, I do think she got away.
Yeah. And I mean, it's been 15 years.
Yeah.
It's not like... Maybe, let's say she did take off. There were so many witnesses. There were people watching out of their windows. There was a dude next to her car. Like, cops showed up extremely fast. There were 4 people that were, like, watching this happen. So in that time, nobody saw a cop do anything weird.
Nobody saw her walk her way.
Yeah, nobody saw her take off.
Exactly. I mean, they just didn't pay that much attention to it, you know?
But how did somebody, like, see... Because she was seen by one of the witnesses. So how did they see
Right.
her?
And
so
then
she was
not
there
see
while they
her.
were there, and then she just walked away.
Well, I don't think the woman who first saw her, stared at her for half an hour, and then called the cops. I think she saw her and was like, what the fuck? Went back.
That
30
half
minutes later,
hour
was
is
still there.
always strange to me. That half hour is so weird. And same
then
thing with
everybody-
that second witness
Yeah.
that saw the guy at the car that was like, oh, he pulled up. They were talking. Like,
Yeah.
I saw the whole thing happen.
And I think probably after that happened, everybody went, okay, great. And then they stopped paying attention, and I think Maura just got out of the car and started walking.
But even that would be really odd. I mean, unless she walked straight into the woods.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Like, she could have just done
She
that
could
to
have bailed
hide.
into the woods. But they ended up searching. They did so many
Yeah,
searches of
and
the
then
area
they
and never
saw
found
a
anything.
person in a hoodie running away later. Like, that could have been her. Like, she just hid out in the woods for a while and then ran away.
And then took off.
Yeah.
It really
Could have
just-
been picked up on the road by somebody.
Yeah.
And it sounds like she wanted to get away. She wanted to disappear.
Could have
you know?
hitchhiked.
But yeah, so she could have bailed. She could have been picked up by somebody and taken somewhere, or she could have been... This is what actually her father Fred believes, is that she was abducted and murdered, most likely.
I don't know if I buy that.
You don't think she was killed?
That sounds suspicious of Brad to jump to such a conclusion.
Yeah, honestly.
It's been 15 years.
Right,
Let's
but-
remember that.
She was trying to
Because
escape.
I think
It
that...
took
More
it
likely
took
she got
up-
away.
It took up until recently for him to be like, she's probably dead.
Well, I think that he would never come to the conclusion that she would run away from her family. So, of course, he's going to say she got abducted, she got killed. But I don't think any of the evidence leads to
I feel
that.
like if she was killed, yeah, there would be a body.
You'd think that with all of these pictures and all of this stuff, like somebody would have been like,
I think
you
you-
fucking look like that one chick. Like,
I still... I don't know. I guess I'm just cynical, but I still don't really believe in the idea that if I... one day saw a missing person poster and then saw somebody who vaguely looked like that, I don't think I'd go up to them and be like, hey, wait a minute, I'm gonna call the police. You're a missing
maybe I'm
person.
just nosy because I feel like I would.
See, I definitely
Really?
wouldn't. That
Okay, well,
forever.
maybe my moral compass is just pointing in a different fucking direction than yours, Nate.
It seems to be
like,
like
Jesus.
complete opposite.
Like, if I saw Leonardo DiCaprio, I'd be like,
How did we get on this?
because if you see somebody you recognize, I'd
Yeah.
be like, that looks like Leonardo DiCaprio.
Exactly.
And then just go about my day and not think
I'm not
any
gonna-
more about
I'm
it.
a
I'm not
nosy
gonna
bitch.
bother
I would
somebody.
absolutely involve myself.
I'm probably just gonna be like, no way, it's not him.
Off
and then
of a
walk away.
hunch, you would antagonize a stranger off of a hunch.
I know me. Yeah, probably.
Are you Maura Murray? She's just gonna be like,
Fuck.
nobody's ever asked me that before.
Did she have any kind of history of like any kind of mental conditions? Do you know?
No. But again, it was back in 2004.
Oh, right.
It wasn't
okay.
like super widely talked about, and if you had anything, people would just be like, ignore it. You know what I mean? And it also depends on like that kind of person, if they want to admit those things, or
if you even have the knowledge to know.
Right.
That
Right.
thing. That was really good, Jen. Thanks for the story.
Yeah.
you're welcome.
Thanks for story time.
And you're all welcome too.
It's cocky.
You're welcome again. All right, guys. Thanks for listening to my story and listening to them.
Wow.
Tune in next week for Nate's story. Not doing that.
Well, that was a lot. Thanks again to Jen for telling us that riveting tale. I know I wouldn't want to follow that one up, except for I do, and I'm going to. Next week, I'm going to be hosting and telling you about the story of the Beaumont children. Be sure to put in any of your theories from this week's episode into the comments below, as we love to read your theories, and join us next week for another episode of the Mystery Society.